Hey guys, Dabadoo here. I just wanted to come out with an updated build video for my Starter League character for this new Last Epoch League. It is a Shatter Strike, Fire Aura procking, and Frostclaw procking Spellblade. You don't need any type of special items on it. So far it's been pretty strong. I'm going through 100 plus corruption monoliths right now, and the build seems to be holding up. I think I should be able to take out the regular version of Aberoth somewhat decently. If I can make it that far, I think I'll be able to have the time to do that. In terms of the Uber version of Aberoth, I don't know if this is the best build for it. Again, the damage is pretty significant. The tankiness is all right. You can judge the performance of the build yourself after this introduction. I'm going to have some gameplay footage. Then after that gameplay footage, I'm going to talk about the changes that I made from the original Theorycraft. I'm going to talk about how I have my Weaver Tree spec'd. I'm going to talk about my strategies for going through monoliths. I'm going to talk about certain items that I'm trying to target farm. I also have an updated loot filter. And I hope you guys enjoy the video. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
My fallen champions, aid me. This is a blessing. Come, sons of Art, aid me.
back. So let's talk about the different aspects of this character. Let's first talk about the weakness of this character, if you want to call it that, and that's the tankiness level of this character. It's not like a sentinel, it's not like completely immune to all damage, like you will take damage, but you have different layers of defense on this character, and it seems surprisingly tanky so far. So let me tell you what you need to do to basically be able to push this character, to the higher levels of corruptions, and really the pain point in that is tankiness. So let's talk about that. So first of all, I'm trying to fit more armor into my build. Not all of this gear is perfect. I'm only level 94, and I'm still going through my 100+ corruption monoliths. I haven't gotten to like the 300 corruption monoliths yet. Okay, but I could probably work in with better affixes another 500 to 1,000 base armor on this value. Then when I pop my flame ward, I'll get additional armor, and that goes to 51%, right? And that is from this spec over here. Actually, what I need to do is I need to take a point out here and put a point in here. So that should be higher right there, okay? So that's one thing. So that's one way to get some more armor in this build. Another thing which I'm planning to do is, if we go, let's go actually to the map here, and we go end of time era, we're already here. So like if I can get a better version of this blessing, my roll on that's pretty low. In terms of my updated blessings that I've gotten so far, this is the only good roll that I've gotten. I've updated like 5 of them, all the stat ones, I think. But anyways, back to the tankiness. So we talked about, getting armor from Flame Ward. Also, you get this as well. This is additional damage reduction from Flame Ward. Now, because I don't have body armor with the +1 Flame Ward charge, I have to spec into Flame Ward to keep it up 100% of the time. And that's important when you're fighting bosses and challenging monsters. You really want to be able to cycle your Flame Ward constantly, and going over here to spec plus having enough cooldown on your gear is a way to do this. So I can keep this up 100% of the time. Now again, if I get the extra charge, then I can also kind of spec it more effectively. I don't have to waste all of these points up here. I could put these points down here, really give me a bunch of defensive layers, and then put a point over here. So that will help. That is something that I'm trying to get. Another cool thing about getting the Flame Ward affix, the plus, let's see, Flame Ward. It gets that +1 charge at level 1. So basically what you can do is you have 4 attempts to use a glyph on it. Which glyph? Let's see. What is it called? You have 4 attempts to use a Glyph of Despair on it to basically make that Flame Ward a sealed affix, because all you really care about is that +1 charge. So that, again, is something you would want to try to do eventually with your body armor, and then have that different spec on Flame Ward. But again, getting this extra charge is important because you'll be able to keep it up 100% of the time. So that's some tankiness there. Let's talk about some other tech I have for tank in this build. And that is Lightning Aegis. So I have idols on me that give me, I don't know, let's say a 20+ combined, a 20+% chance to gain Lightning Aegis on hit. And Lightning Aegis basically makes it so you take like 35% less damage. So that will stack on top of my armor. That will also stack on top of my Flame Ward defensive buffs here. And that's just another layer of defense on top of everything. I don't have any block or parry in this character, but this plus the armor plus the Lightning Aegis, and then again plus, going back to this important thing as well, Shattered Aegis, which is part of your passive specialization. This will stack up to 4 times, and that gives me 80% increased armor, which is great. So you'll notice in the gameplay footage, if you rewatch it, I have my character sheet up just to show you kind of what my armor spikes to. It spikes to about 6,000-ish or so, kind of in the middle of a fight with a boss. And then if I have Lightning Aegis on, you'll see like a little like purple thing down here, and that purple thing basically means I take 35% less damage while it's up. You also want to make sure you have maxed out resistances. And then you also have some leech as well. And I'm actually working on getting a better leech roll. So, for example, I'm in Reign of Dragons right now. And why am I doing Reign of Dragons? Well, if I go to my map here, Reign of Dragons, where is it? Right here. Okay, so this is where I'm at. And right now, like, I got the upgraded level 100 corruption melee damage leached as health, but I got a low roll on that. And that's my only leech source right now. And so I'd like to get that to 7%. Because sometimes if you do get a heavy hit, you know, it'll knock all your energy shield away. And it'll get you into your life territory. That's very scary to be there. And this, you know, you do a lot of damage with this build. Okay. And that's without, you know, all my other buffs going on. It's, you know, here, let's just see. Boom, boom, boom. What is that? That's pretty good, right? Okay. And, you know, 7% damage leech, that's a lot of extra life you're getting from that. So it's kind of a way to just like keep it topped up until you can regain your ward back. This build does generate ward relatively quickly, and I've also tried to fit in a bunch of ward per second and ward decay threshold in this build, and that's why it's just sitting passively at close to 1800. Also, intelligence helps with that. You know, and I'll you try to work intelligence to this build where you can. All right, so let's talk about offense. Now, I'm trying to target farm certain weapons in this game for this build because they can be quite powerful. And one of those is the Scissors of Atropos, and the other one is the Nest of Nightmares. And you can target farm these items by having a certain Weaver Tree spec. So what you can do here is you go to your factions, and you got to go to your Weaver Tree, and I'll just close this stuff down here. And this is what my Weaver Tree currently looks like. As you can see, I've pathed to all of these little nodes on the tree here to get specific drops, to target specific drops. I want these maces to drop. I want these swords to drop, okay? And, you know, this body armor is really great as well. And this slot can only take armor or jewelry, so I have this body armor in here, okay? Ideally, you know, what I want for this body armor, instead of the +2 to Glacier, I'd want to have like flat mana or something like that. And I'm also looking for getting like, you know, +1 ward or something instead of the elemental resistance that I have. So that would be like an ideal body armor for this build. You know, you can also, with this Weaver Tree spec, you can target specific echoes as well to get those to drop. And I just have the champion echoes and the nemesis echoes because they drop good stuff. And, you know, with this, if I kill a champion, I have a chance to basically have a loot explosion of this. You know, this, if you open up a loot cache, you have a chance to get a loot explosion of this. This, when you just get random chances of getting this. You know, same here, random chances of getting this just going through the game. I also have basically rare monsters spec'd on this tree. So and I also have a spec in here where rare monsters have a chance to drop Weaver's Will items. And that's because I'm very interested in certain Weaver's Will items. So not only are these scissors great, I'm also trying to get, like I said, the Nest of Nightmares. Now, this is also great for this build. +1 to all mage skills. If you can get the right added affixes from Weaver's Will, this can get very, very strong. As you see, I got this has a low overall Weaver's Will roll. It's only 8, but you know, I got tier 6 Surge, which is great, and that's, you know, 72 increased melee damage, but you can get better things than that. And so, you know, these are kind of the things that you want to target. If you can also get, this is a good ring. Its base stats are a good ring. If you happen to get a high Weaver's Will roll, then you can potentially get a really, really nice ring. So for example, let me just show you something to do. Let's go this one. I like that 10% increased health and mana. That's actually a pretty big stat there. And let's just see if we get lucky, okay? And then let me clear this out. What I want to do is you do a rune of weaving. I seem to get better luck if I just equip the item and just try to level it up normally to uncover my Weaver's Wills, but this is the fast way to do it. So let's see what we get. Physical damage. I got trolled there. So this is bricked. This is bricked for this build. All right. Do I want to get something else captured here? I'll get this one as well. Okay. Let's see if I brick this one. All right. So let's see. Let's see if we get another brick. All right. So we just select this. All right. Big money. Attunement. All right. Attunement's okay. I might try to take this further. Why attunement's okay is because it just basically gives you flat mana, and this build needs a lot of mana. So that's cool. This has potential, and it has 14 more Weaver's Wheels, and I can get, you know, another prefix, and those prefixes can be quite powerful. That's kind of the concept behind target farming Weaver's Wheel items. They're very strong, and with your Weaver's Wheel tree, you can kind of focus on those things. Let me tell you kind of my longer term plans, and it's in the Theorycraft link as well. So, you know, I talked about basically, you know, I'm trying to get rare monsters because the rare monsters have a chance to drop Weaver's Will items. I'm spec to these locations to basically have loot explosions of these items because, you know, if I get good rolls on these things, they can be build changing. Longer term, what I'm trying to do is I want to come up over here and get this stuff because basically you get a guaranteed wizard or exile mage, and then you almost get guaranteed champions, and you can get a bunch of, you know, loot drops with, you know, +1 to level skills. This is something that I'm going to try to do as well. Another thing that I've noticed while playing around is these loot lizards. If you invest just a little bit into them, they start popping up everywhere. So even if you only get this to level 2, it seems like it spawns every single time you open up a cache. You always see a loot lizard. So I'm probably going to go, like I said, up over here, grab the stuff. Then I'm going to fill out this stuff down here for the loot lizards. That's kind of my next goals for the Weaver tree. I'm 37 out of 50, so I got some more points to play around with. Okay, so let's talk about my idols and what I'm doing and what you want to do with idols, okay? So I'm trying to collect idols that have chance to gain Lightning Aegis when hit. I generally want high rolls of those. When you have Lightning Aegis on, it's kind of like a little purple buff down here. That basically makes it so you take like 30 or 35% less damage, and that stacks on top of all of your other damage mitigation, so it's very nice. Other things that I'm looking for is chance to cast Fire Aura on crit, because I'm critting all of the time. I have a 100% chance to crit, as you saw. And you know, this, you attack really, really fast. I have over 2 attacks a second with this build, and this basically Shatter Strike repeats twice on top of the main attack. So it's just, it's a lot of damage, a lot of fast, and a lot of hits. So if you can get your Fire Aura chance on crit to about 20-ish or so, that should be sufficient to basically keep it on cooldown all of the time. War retention is nice. You know, also Frostbite is great as well if you don't have a source of it, and you can use idols to get a source of it. But these idols aren't ideal. This one isn't ideal either. This one's pretty good, but although I wish I had a higher roll on the prefix there. Now, for the enchantments that you get from the Weaver, from those tombs and stuff like that, what you're probably looking for is you want to get at least one enchant that is this, tier 6 or 7 this, which is when you use evade, you get haste. Notice my move speed just went up there. And that's all because of this item right here. It's very, very strong. So make sure that one of your idols has this Weaver affix on it, okay? I would say beyond that, probably the best in class affix would just be straight up spell damage and melee damage. But also, this is pretty nice as well. Just, you know, increased crit chance and multi. That's also something that you can look for. I'm using the little idols basically just to fill in resistances when I need them. Ideally, what you're probably going to want to do is you're probably going to want to get, you know, armor prefixes that are the Weaver armor prefixes in all of these extra slots, because you want to try to stack as much as armor as you can. And you know, this build can reach high armor levels, and again, my fixes on my gear aren't even ideal for that yet. So that is what you're looking for your idols. Now, something else that you can do, and I don't want to go here, but because I don't want to, I like where I'm at. I like this area, and I'm going to have to do a map to get back here again. At least I think I have to. But if you go to your, let's see, where is it? Right here. Okay. So if you go to your observatory, I would actually recommend basically target farming adorned idols and grand idols. So get lenses to do that. Use the telescope to basically get those quest or prophecies for it, because these are kind of hard to come by if you're not getting giant loot explosions of them. So, and also it's pretty cheap. Like it's less than usually 1,000 to pick like an adorned idol or a grand idol from one of those prophecies from the telescopes. So yeah, that's something that I would suggest. All right, let's talk about more offense aspects of this character. So right now I'm rocking 2 scissors. Both of these scissor rolls could be better, although they're both great, okay? I could have, for example, a higher Weaver's Will roll here and therefore have more affixes. Like, so for example, let's say I had tier 6 increased cold damage on top of this. That would be great. And then let's say I got one with +2 melee attacks instead of +1. As you can see, like these things can get insane if you get a good Weaver's Will roll and you get good affixes from that, plus a really good implicit roll as well, okay? Now, if you're rocking 2 scissors, the advantage to that is you can basically have more AoE. Because with the added extra skill points, you can path over here to Cold Steel, and that's an added 160% crit multi because you're getting 80% per sword, okay? So if you're rocking dual scissors, basically that's best for AoE. It's actually not best for damage, believe it or not, even if you get amazing scissors. So let me tell you what the best damage option is for this build. In your offhand, you will be rocking a scissors, but in your main hand, you're going to be rocking a well-rolled Nest of Nightmares. Of note, again, with this spec, you're going to have less AoE, but your damage is going to be pretty nuts, and let me explain. So if you're rocking Nest of Nightmares in your main hand and scissors in your offhand, you're not pathing over here, okay? You're spending your extra points over here, which are, again, more damage multipliers, and you can spend some points over here as well, okay? And so that's kind of the most DPS version of the build. Let me explain why this mace is so strong. So first of all, it just has an implicit that goes up to 90% melee critical strike multiplier. That's really strong. The other stats on it are surprisingly strong as well. You also just get 40% melee critical strike multiplier as well. So it's 100, technically up to like 130-ish crit multi from just the affix on this, the implicit affix on this item, and that by itself is almost as much as the 160 you can get from Cold Steel, okay? And then, you know, if you add also the spiders into factoring damage, that's nuts. So let me tell you what these spiders do. You can stack up to like 4 or 5 spiders. Each spider stack that you have on a monster will effectively increase your base crit against that monster close to 5%, I think, if I'm reading it properly. And based on my testing, that seems to be the case. So in other words, what the implicits on this item are up to 130 crit multi, and you like 5 base crit chance all the way to 20 base crit chance. And then you get the leech on there as well. And, you know, having that crazy leech is very nice. Like, you know, I do hundreds of thousands of damage per second. I don't know, a lot. And I leech basically full. But if I'm doing the harder content, I'm going to want more leech and faster leech, right? And so if I can get, you know, up to 10% leech per second, and let's say I'm doing 500,000, that's a lot of life leech. And another, you know, I've talked about ways to make you defensive on this build and, you know, goals that you want. You're going to want to get your life up as well, and getting that extra, you know, let's say passive ward of 2,000 and life of 2,000 with, you know, 10% life leech. That's a lot. So that's kind of what this is a very good item. And however, again, the downside to using the Nest of Nightmares plus the scissors is that you're going to have a smaller AoE. And if you're fighting bosses like Aberoth and things like that, being able to position, having the extra range is nice. But I did like, you know, in playing around with the Nest of Nightmares, I really did like it. And you should play around with it as well and see if you want to go Nest of Nightmares in your main hand and scissors in your offhand, or just 2 scissors. And then the whole plan really to get like super weapons for this build is just target farm these things and try to get good rolls. Okay, so that's kind of what you want to do. You know, you can just use good old regular exalts on this just fine. But the issue with these regular exalts is that, you know, it's really hard to get them to match the power of a Scissors or a Nest of Nightmares with a good Weaver, with good Weaver affixes on it. It's just really hard to match that. And, you know, you can basically get these to drop a lot depending on your Weaver tree spec. And so there's just basically common items that you can farm that can be really, really strong, like best in slot weapons basically for your build. So might as well farm them, okay? Don't worry about using, like, trying to get like a good exalt or whatever. Like this is a great exalt right here. Like these are good like some of these are good weapons, maybe not all of them, but yeah, it can't really compare to this, okay? So yeah, just wanted to talk about that. I thought that was an important thing regarding the offense of this character and trying to get these as your items, okay? For the rest of the gear, what you're looking at is, I think this type of hat, which is with the cooldown reduction and mana, is probably the best hat for this build. This is the best damage body armor for this build. The best other type of armor for this build, I would say, is just this armor right here with the mana and regen. So, I mean, I'd be happy with basically nearly ideal stats on either of these bases. They're both good, but this is just one does more damage. This belt is, what's great about this belt is that it has a high cooldown reduction on it, but you know, ideally this isn't the best base for belts, and you get better bases and better things. But I'm rocking this belt because I really like that cooldown reduction, and it lets me basically keep my Flame Ward up 100% of the time with 2 charges, which is great. And it basically lets me keep my Enchant Weapon up 100% of the time as well, okay? As you'll notice, it basically resets. Maybe there's like a microsecond or 2 that's off, but yeah, it's nice to have this up the entire time, okay? It's very strong for the character. In terms of the ring, these rings are generally the best, but you just kind of want good stats in the ring. The ring doesn't matter that much. So, for example, I'm rocking this ring. This ring's fine. Vitality is fine. You also get Vitality from your Scissors. Don't overlook Vitality because, like I talked about, you're going to want to get some life on this build when you're doing the really hard stuff. Like, it doesn't matter too much right now, like 100 Corruption or 150 Corruption that I'm rocking right now. But once I get to 300 or past that, I have a feeling it's going to be really nice to have 2,000-ish life. Vitality will help you reach that. As you can see, you get a lot of Vitality from these. And I'm rocking 27 Vitality right now, which is a lot, okay? Yeah, so, but this ring is really great because it gives you that, gives you Necrotic Resistance and Ward Decay Threshold, and basically that Ward Decay Threshold is like another 120 passive ward that you're just rocking right there, okay? You know, I want to also target farm this as well. This is, you know, as you could see in my Weaver tab, I'm trying to collect this ring, this item here, this sword, this. There's other things that, you know, you could look at as well. Like these boots could potentially be okay. This belt could potentially be okay as well. Like these are all decent items. If you get good rolls on them, they're fine. This necklace is not really worthwhile for this build in my opinion. But these two things, like, those are other Weaver items that you could also try to target farm later on. But the focus should be the Scissors, then maybe Nests if you want to do more damage and less AoE. This thing is also really good. If you don't have one, try to target farm a good version of this. And try to you know, collect these rings and try to make some good versions of these rings, because this ring right here, if I got great Weaver affixes on it, would be better than both of these rings. Much better, okay? So yeah, that's what you're looking at for your items. The boots, if you're just going with regular exalted boots, I would say the reduced bonus taken from crit is the best. For gloves, I would say 24% of armor mitigation also applies to damage over time, because again, the really nasty bosses have giant pools of like damaging AoE around them and shit like that, and getting damage over time reduction is really important. Saying that, this is not the best base for an amulet. I'm only rocking this amulet because it has stats that I like right now. the best base for this build is actually this base right here with less damage over time taken. I'm just trying to get a good version of one of these amulets to make up for this amulet right here. Basically what I'm looking for is flat mana and crit multi, along with, you know, ward decay threshold and something else. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm trying to get. Yeah, so those are the items. Okay, so let's talk about my monolith strategy and what I did. So what I did is I just tried to rush through the first versions of all the monoliths, okay? Kind of the easier versions of the monolith. So I did this once, did this once, did this once. When going through it the first time, I just tried to pick the best reward out of the ones that was offered to me. I didn't bother doing the lower level of these monoliths twice, okay? And then after you complete all of them, then you're going to want to try to go directly into the level 100 versions of those monoliths. You should probably be able to handle those like mid 80s, if not lower than that. On my build, when I got there, I was probably actually kind of like high 80s, but it wasn't that difficult. I didn't have any problems whatsoever, although everything's like level 100. So let's also talk about how you want to progress your monoliths, either the lower level ones or the higher level ones. So for example, my strategy when doing a monolith is this, okay? Is I pick a direction that looks good. So let's say that I want a Tome of Experience and I want money. So I might go up in this direction over here, okay? And then I go kind of in that direction, keep on going that direction until I find a tomb, a Weaver tomb. And then I go into that Weaver tomb as soon as possible. And then when I'm in there, what I want to do, and don't die on that map, keeping those maps without, you know, completing the objectives and getting that Weaver tomb is really important, because once you get that Weaver tomb, you then can place basically an entire tile set of woven echoes away from the center of the star chart, similar to this, okay? Now, I actually messed up on this line here, because generally you want to end the line of echoes. Maybe you place 6 out in a row, or yeah, I'd say 6 or 7 out in a row. And then at the end cap of that row, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to place this echo right here, okay, placing another tomb. And then what you can do is you can then go complete that tomb and then place another line of weave-in echoes out. So theoretically, if you do it right, you can extend this very far out past like the normal boundaries you normally be able to extend your monolith. Before running into a bunch of these. Basically placing Weaver echoes kind of supersedes these and kind of overwrite these. And then, you know, you can get out really far, and then if you really do want to reset it at that point, you'll even get more corruption because you were able to push it out so far. So again, do not do regular echoes. They're not worth it for a couple of reasons. One, the rewards aren't as good. Two, it's actually slower at farming stability. One of the great things about woven echoes is you can do the woven echoes that, you know, basically let you fight nemesis monsters up a tower or champions. You can complete those echoes really quickly, get really good rewards from those echoes, and basically, you know, 50 plus stability for that attempt. It's a one go. You don't have to like stay in the map and like kill all the monsters that are left and all that sort of stuff. So for example, the echoes that are kind of important, I would say, are Pillars of Skulls. That's kind of like the champion arena. Why that's a good echo is because if you look at your Weaver tree, we go over here, I'll press the right buttons. You go Factions, Weaver tree. This node right here lets you have a chance to get a loot explosion when you kill champions, and that woven echo with the champion arena, like I said, the Pillar of Skulls, there's a chance this'll, you know, you'll get a loot explosion of whatever item that you have here. So that's nice, okay? The other thing is like, you know, Nemesis ones. Where's Nemesis? This Conquered Tower. I have Conquered Tower. I have Pillar of Skulls and Conquered Tower, okay? Conquered Tower is great because you fight a bunch of Nemesis monsters. Those Nemesis monsters can give you really good loot. And you can put that really good loot, you know, into things like, you know, into the slots here on your tree and try to target farm that really good loot. So, and also why I like those two arenas is that you can get through them really quickly, and you'll get, like I said, 50 stability. So it's a way to basically get stability quicker. It's a way to go through echoes without worrying about failing them, because if you do fail an echo, you can always just repeat it and still get the rewards at the end. So always do woven echoes, don't do regular echoes. And again, at the end of a line that you place, let's say 6 out, you make sure that you end it by placing a tomb echo there, a sepulture of the lost, okay? Make sure to place that kind of near the end of a line or every 6 out. Because if you don't do that, you're going to screw yourself over like me. And so now if I want to do more woven echoes, I got to try to find a tomb on the map, okay? And I don't know, hopefully I'll find one. But when you're in an echo, what you want to do is you want to basically max the stability for it, because you're trying to fight the bosses over and over again. And that's really kind of the focus right now. What I'm doing, I'm currently trying to basically get the best blessings I can and the best rolls for those blessings. And you really want to do that once you're in the level 100 echoes. You don't want to do in the lower level echoes. And so I'm doing Reign of Dragons right now, because Reign of Dragons basically lets me get a higher level of leech. My leech roll was basically minimum. And so if I can get closer to 7%, that's almost double my leech compared to the leech that I have. And so I'm trying to get that right now. But all of these, like I'm going to redo this again to try to get this closer to 50. I'm going to redo this again to try to get this closer to 320, that sort of stuff. And that's my next goal, is to basically kill these bosses over and over again until I can get better rolls on the blessings. And then if I've maxed the monolith and there's really nowhere else to go and I'm just getting a bunch of shades, then I'll just kill the shade and reset the thing and go over again and place another line with tombs at the end. That's kind of the plan. So you get through the initial echoes as soon as possible, the early level ones as soon as possible, the early level monoliths as soon as possible. Don't worry about the reward, just kind of pick the best one that's given to you, okay? And then once you get through those, the plan is just to get to level 100 echoes as soon as possible. Even if you're not level 85 or whatever, just jump into them. Don't worry about it. This build can handle it. And then once you're in there, again, you're maxing stability. You're trying to find a tomb as soon as possible. Once you find the tomb, you're placing lines of woven echoes only away from the star chart or away from the center. And then every 6 or so, every 5 or so, you place another tomb, a sepulture of the lost. So, if you can place another line out, and just kind of repeat the process. And then, you can fight a shade when you want to reset the entire thing. The longer you get the line out, the more corruption you're going to get from it. And the more time you kill the bosses, the more corruption you get from it. So I think it's a pretty good strategy. It's served me well. And my focus right now is to just go through these level 100s again and try to get, I'm still just trying to get better rolls on these. And then after I get kind of good rolls on these, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to really try to push basically building my corruption up on one of these monoliths that I want to basically target, okay? And then once I push the corruption up on that, then I'll basically reset the other ones, because I think they get bumped up to the corruption level, your highest level corruption one anyways. So that's kind of my plan, okay? And then I'll shoot for doing Aberoth, and I don't think I'll have enough playtime to get to Uber Aberoth, but that's my plan with echoes. Something else I want to clarify: if you need woven echoes and you need to get, and you want it, Sepulture of the Lost, Pillar of Skulls, Conquer Tower, these are all really choice echoes to buy. You'll get a lot of stability quickly from Pillar of Skulls. Same with Conquer Tower, good loot, and this one will basically just let you, like I said, repeat another tile set of woven echoes. So I recommend it. It's choice. Okay, so let's talk about loot filters. That's a good way to kind of end this video. So if I go to my YouTube here, you're going to see, funny face, you'll see in the YouTube description, if you expand it, and also in the pinned comments for all the videos regarding this build, I have my original theory craft, which has been updated. So for example, if you're not using any legendaries, you're just trying to rock with rare items, not even exalted items, this is the recommended setup. And if you want to just not use any legendaries, try to get legendary versions, try to get exalted versions of the items that you see here. This is kind of like the best in slot bases and kind of best in slot affixes that you can shoot for, not counting exalted versions like tier 6, tier 7. This is just tier 5 and below affixes that I'm using. And these are the idols. This is kind of the ideal idol setup. I don't have these yet. And again, these guys right here are just like used for resistances and things like that. This lists all the blessings. These are level 100 versions of these blessings. These are the ideal blessings that you're going to want to choose. But you're talking about loot filters, right? So you can also download loot filters. So I've released 4 so far. I'm currently on my very strict version of the loot filter, which is level 90 up. The campaign one's kind of out of date by now, but it should treat you fine for the campaign. This one, I would say put this on or like level 40-ish or so. I'd say put this on around level 70-ish or so, and maybe put this on around level 80-ish or so. I say level 90. It's up to you, but just that's kind of what I would suggest. And it should treat you well enough. Basically, as you progress through these loot filters, you're going to see a lot more stuff in these early loot filters compared to this very strict one. So just FYI. In terms of how to use these loot filters and what to do, it's real simple. You just click the link. It'll take you to my Google Drive. You'll actually get to see the XML file, okay? And then you click the download button. It says, is it a virus? It's not a virus. Don't worry. Just click download anyways. You literally just saw the file itself a few seconds ago. It'll download the files. You can see I already did this once, okay? And then what you're going to do, you're going to open up the folder for the file, okay? And this is you're going to copy it, okay? Then you're going to go back to in-game. And then you're going to go to your settings. Oh, my bad. You're actually going to go here and go to loot filter. And then you're going to go export filter. And you're going to open custom filter location. This will take you to where the filter should be placed on your computer. And you're just going to copy and then paste it over here. I already have the file here, so I'm not going to bother replacing it. But yeah, that's how you're going to want to install the loot filter. And then when you come back over here and reload this, you're going to see it for selection. Okay, so that's what I would suggest. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this build. Hopefully you found this video useful. And I'll try to get an updated video to you guys once I have a chance to kill Aberoth. Unfortunately, I'm super busy right now with work and other things. But I'm still trucking. I'm still playing Last Epoch. I'm enjoying the game. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.